My wife cheated with her boss during our divorce, stole $200, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming sole ownership of the house. What do I do when I find out she's been secretly laundering money through her sister's business? I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife turned out to be a complete nightmare behind my back. Honestly, I thought we had a solid marriage, 2 kids, a nice house, decent jobs. But then I started noticing little things that didn't add up. It was subtle at first. Her phone always face down, her spending more time away from home, secretive texts. I brushed it off, telling myself I was paranoid. But then things got worse. One evening, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I noticed her car wasn't in the driveway like it usually was. I went inside and found the house strangely quiet, except for the faint sounds of her voice coming from the bedroom. I peeked in and saw her on the bed with some guy, her boss, Mark. They were clearly in bed together, and she was giving him that fake, sultry look she always put on, like she was trying to convince herself she was doing the right thing. My stomach dropped. I froze, watching her whisper in his ear, her hand on his chest. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, cheating on me with her boss during what was supposed to be our divorce. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I just stood there, stunned. I saw her pull away from him, fixing her hair, acting like nothing had happened. That's when I realized this wasn't just a fling. It was something more calculated, a betrayal that cut deep. I left quietly, went to my office, and started digging into our bank accounts. That's when I found it. Over $200, $0 missing from our joint account. I thought it was some kind of mistake, but then I saw the transactions, large withdrawals, transfers to her sister's business. My mind raced. How could she do this? How could she steal that much money and then lie through her teeth about everything? I felt rage boiling up inside me. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew this was just the surface of something much darker. She was hiding things, more than I'd ever imagined, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I couldn't sleep after what I saw. The image of her with Mark haunted me. I kept replaying it, trying to find some explanation, some reason why she'd do this. But the truth was, there was no good reason. Just betrayal, lies, and a mountain of money that she'd stolen from us. I decided I needed to confront her. I waited until she left for what she called a business meeting, which I knew was probably another lie. When she was gone, I went through her phone, her emails, her bank statements, anything I could find. That's when I discovered her secret. She had been laundering money through her sister Lisa's business for months. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It was a steady, elaborate scheme. She'd been funneling money through fake invoices, shell companies, and offshore accounts, all under my nose. How did I miss this? How could I have been so blind? I felt a mix of anger and helplessness. I was furious she'd lied to me for so long, but I was also terrified. If she was laundering money, what else was she capable of? I knew I had to act fast. I needed proof enough to take her to court, to get her out of the house, to stop her from draining us completely. When she came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. She looked annoyed, fake smiling as she always did when she was trying to hide something. I didn't hold back. I told her I knew about her affair, her theft, her money laundering. Her reaction was instant. She started crying, denying everything, calling me paranoid, accusing me of snooping. She spun this web of lies about how she was just trying to get ahead, how it was all for us, how she'd never cheat or steal from me. But I saw right through her. She was a bitch when cornered, angry, defensive, and manipulative. I couldn't believe I'd been living with a woman who was capable of all this. It crushed me. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. How could she do this to me? How could she lie and cheat and steal our money? I wanted to scream, to break something, but I kept my cool. I told her I'd be taking legal action, that I'd find out everything she'd been hiding. She looked at me with those icy eyes, trying to control the situation, but I knew she was scared now. She'd pushed me too far. After that confrontation, everything changed. I felt like I was walking on thin ice. I couldn't trust her anymore, not even for a second. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone dark and selfish. I spent the next few days digging deeper into her financials, tracing every transaction, every offshore account. It was like peeling back layers of a lie, and each layer revealed more deception. One night, I found something that knocked me off my feet. Turns out, she wasn't just laundering money through her sister Lisa's business. She was using it as a front to hide the stolen cash. Lisa had no idea about the extent of it. She's just a small business owner trying to get by, but had been funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars through her, disguising it as legitimate income. It was a huge operation and the scope was staggering. I couldn't believe I'd been married to someone capable of this level of deception. I knew I had to do something drastic. I started compiling all the evidence, bank statements, wire transfers, invoices, emails. I wanted everything documented. I also contacted a private investigator just to double-check I wasn't missing anything. The pie confirmed what I suspected, had been laundering money for months, possibly over a year. That's when I realized this wasn't just about infidelity or theft anymore. It was about criminal activity, and I was sitting right in the middle of it. Meanwhile, kept up her act. She'd come home pretending to be the innocent victim, crying, saying she was sorry, claiming she made a mistake. She told me she was under a lot of pressure at work, that Mark was just a distraction, and that the money was for her sister's business to help her expand. She spun stories so convincingly I almost believed her, but I knew better. I saw through every lie she threw at me. I couldn't take this anymore. The emotional toll was unbearable. I felt betrayed, angry, and deeply hurt. How could she do this to us? To me? To our family? I kept asking myself if I'd missed all the signs, if I'd been blind to her true nature. But deep down, I knew I had to act fast before she could do any more damage. My priority was to protect what little was left of our financial stability, and more importantly, figure out what the hell I was going to do about her. I couldn't stay married to someone capable of this level of betrayal, not without consequences. By now, I was completely consumed with the need to take control of the situation. I couldn't trust anymore, not with her lies, her manipulations, or her money laundering schemes. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that I had to act decisively. I started by consulting a lawyer, someone who specialized in financial crimes and divorce law. I needed to understand my rights, what I could seize, and how to protect what was left of our assets. The lawyer told me that I had a strong case, especially with the evidence I had gathered. She advised me to file for an emergency injunction to freeze accounts and prevent her from moving any more money out of the country. I also had to prepare for a possible divorce, one that would be messy but necessary. The thought of going through a divorce with her made me sick, but I knew I couldn't stay married to a woman who was capable of this kind of betrayal. While I was dealing with legal stuff, I also decided to confront her again, this time with everything laid bare. I told her I knew about the laundering, that I had the evidence, and that she was going to prison if she kept this up. She looked at me with those cold, calculating eyes and told me I was overreacting. She said she was doing this for us, that she'd never cheat or steal if I just understood her. That was the biggest lie I'd ever heard. I told her I was done listening to her bullshit and that she needed to pack her bags and leave. The night she left was a mess. She tried to guilt me, crying about how unfair everything was, how she loved me, how she'd change, but I saw through it. I knew her game. She was just trying to buy time to manipulate me into dropping the charges, into letting her keep the house, the money, everything. I didn't fall for it. I told her she was done, that I was calling the cops if she tried to take any more money or hide anything else. I felt a strange mixture of relief and rage. I was finally taking back control, but it came at a heavy emotional cost. In the days that followed, I coordinated with my lawyer and the authorities. They started investigating her laundering operations, and I continued gathering evidence. I also had to face the reality that I might lose the house. She was claiming sole ownership, claiming everything was hers because she worked hard for it. But I knew the truth. She'd stolen from us, lied to my face, and cheated on me with her boss. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. I was determined to see her held accountable, even if it meant losing everything I had to fight for it. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I handed over all the evidence to my lawyer. The court issued an emergency freeze on accounts, and the authorities started digging into her laundering schemes. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally taking steps to stop her, but dread over what the investigation might reveal about her true nature. Meanwhile, behavior grew more erratic. She started bombarding me with texts, trying to guilt me into dropping everything. She'd cry, say she loved me, that she'd never do it again, that everything was a misunderstanding. She even accused me of trying to ruin her. But I knew better. I knew she was trying to manipulate her way out of trouble, just like she'd done with everything else in her life. I refused to fall for it. I stayed strong, focused on the legal battle ahead. One day, I got a call from the detective working on her laundering operation. They'd found bank transfers to offshore accounts, shell companies, and even some suspicious transactions through her sister Lisa's business. It was worse than I thought. Had been laundering money for over a year, maybe longer. The amount, over $200, was just the tip of the iceberg. She was deep into this criminal activity, and I realized that her betrayal wasn't just emotional or financial, it was criminal. That realization hit me hard. I'd married a con artist, a thief, someone capable of lying, cheating, and laundering millions. I felt sick thinking about all the years I'd trusted her, built a life with her. Now I was left picking up the pieces, trying to salvage what I could. I knew I had to prepare for the worst, possible jail time for her, losing the house, and the end of what I thought was my family. But more than anything, I wanted her held accountable. I couldn't let her get away with this, not after everything she'd done. The final blow came when the lawyer called to inform me she was trying to claim sole ownership of the house. She argued she'd paid for it, that it was her property, despite the fact that I'd contributed equally and that she'd stolen from us. I knew I had to fight that in court, and I was ready. I'd documented everything: the money she stole, the laundering schemes, her lies. I was determined to prove she had no right to claim the house, that she was a criminal who needed to be held accountable for her actions. This was no longer just about betrayal, it was about justice, and I was going to see it through to the end. In the end, the court ruled against on the house claim. The evidence was overwhelming. She had stolen our money, laundered it through her sister's business, and lied her way through every step. The judge ordered her to pay restitution, and the house was awarded to me as part of the settlement. It wasn't much comfort, knowing that she destroyed so much, but at least I had some semblance of justice. Seeing her face when the verdict was read, her eyes filled with fury and helplessness, felt like a small victory. The criminal investigation into her laundering activities continued, and she was eventually indicted. Facing serious charges, the world unraveled further. She tried to deny everything, but the mountain of evidence was irrefutable. She was sentenced to prison, which I hoped would serve as some form of punishment for her betrayal. Watching her get taken away in handcuffs was surreal. Part of me felt relieved, but another part was just exhausted, emotionally drained from the chaos, the lies, the betrayal. After all this, I moved out of the house, trying to rebuild my life. It's been a long, painful process. I had to learn to trust myself again, to believe that I deserved better than someone capable of such deception. The kids are still adjusting, but I've made sure they see that honesty and integrity matter. I've also learned that sometimes justice isn't about getting everything back. It's about reclaiming your peace and moving forward. Looking back, I realize I was blind for too long. I ignored the signs, convinced myself everything was okay because I wanted to believe in the best of her. But the truth was, she was never who I thought she was. That betrayal changed me, made me more cautious, more guarded. But it also made me stronger. I know now that I can survive the worst, that I can stand up and fight for what's right, even when it feels like the world is crumbling around me. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: don't ignore the red flags. Trust your instincts. And if you find yourself in the middle of betrayal like this, gather evidence, get legal help, and do Let anyone manipulate you into thinking you're overreacting. Justice might take time, but it's worth fighting for. Because at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself and your future to stand tall and demand the truth.